Democratic Senator Alex Padilla of California. Welcome, welcome, sir. Thank you for coming to the table.
Senator, if you could not be in California with your family, you have to be here in Washington, D.C. at the behest of Rand Paul, then I'm glad that you are at least with us. They have bungled this so badly, Republicans, and they have made this complicated in ways it never needed to be complicated. Talk to me about the stakes of not getting this done and not getting it done in a timely fashion.
Yeah, no, I appreciate this because it is important for the people to know. Some people have used the phrase, the Republicans are the dog that caught the car, right? How long have they been demanding we need to get tougher on the border, we need to address the border, we need to secure the border? And then they negotiate a deal, the deal's on the table, and they all run away from it. Why? Only one reason. Trump said no, or at least wait till November till I get there. And so they all kneel, right?
Which is not how legislation works. There's no, like, wait for me.
And now let me also be clear about this, because I voted no on that package. They voted no because of politics. I voted no because of some of the policy that was in it and some of the policy that was not. You know, for the first time, there was a immigration or border proposal on the table that had some enforcement, some smart, some not, definitely not. But no dreamer would have benefited from this package. No farm worker would have benefited from this package. No legal pathways for people who have earned it, in my opinion. And so now the next step is, well, okay, let's vote on the rest of the foreign aid package, which is what we should have done a long time ago. Aid to Ukraine is urgent, you know, and it's not just aid to Israel, but the humanitarian aid that's so necessary for the region. Aid to Taiwan and strengthening our posture in the Indo-Pacific region. All that should have been done months ago, but it was held hostage by Republicans. They were very blunt about it. The price for this is border, and now they can't even do that. And the hypocrisy is amazing. Right? In the Senate, the negotiators insisted we need Secretary Mayorkas in the room to make sure it's a substantive deal.
And he was in the room, right?
Yeah. But in the House, they're trying to impeach the guy.
Crazy.
Right? So which is it? Make up your mind. And until they make up their mind, I don't know if we're going to be able to get serious about border, but the rest of our domestic and international business has to move forward.
It's the domestic and the foreign piece that Republicans and Democrats, Schumer and McConnell in the Senate agreed to. They put together the package to get it out. So now we're in this space. I want to play a little bit of Senator Rand Paul on the new foreign aid packages that are right in front of you now and the future of that package.
I'm not going to object to the amendments, but I'm going to object to condensing time. And they'll struggle through this for 2 or 3 more days. We're going to beat the crap out of them for being for someone else's border and not our own. And we'll see where the cards lie. This is a minority of Republicans, including the leader of the Republican Party up here, who are all for protecting some other country's border and not our own.
That's just, for me, it's such a disingenuous statement and position to take. In fact, it's an outright, it's just total BS in terms of what's right in front of you. You stated the case, that this is about securing our relationship and protecting our friends and helping Ukraine and the people of Ukraine right now who need our help, which is part of what NATO allies do, right? How do you read the movement to sort of break this? Is he going to hold the lock on this for 2 or 3 days and then just like, you know, as we were talking before, okay, now you can do it?
Right. Well, it's not what people want to hear, but the process of the Senate, right? At worst case, we're going to be here until early next week, but it's going to get done. That's the good news. It's only a matter of time before this package gets done. Now we can do it.
So this is just theater then? This is just...
Absolutely.
Right.
Absolutely theater. And it's not surprised that it's him because, you know, in one package, it's about, you know, our border versus other allies. Next time it's going to be about, you know, gutting the federal government budget when we should be investing more in infrastructure and healthcare and, you know, so many other things. So we'll see when his own colleagues on the Republican side finally get fed up enough to say, come on, let's cut this.
To be clear, he walked away from the border deal, right? That was...
He walked away from the border deal. And
so.
let me point out yet another example of their hypocrisy. They're saying we got to get tough on the border, we got to secure the border. Biden has to do his job. When you have Governor Abbott in Texas using state troopers to prevent federal agents from access to the border to enforce the law, right? And I only bring that up because there was an attempt by Senate Republicans this last week to say, well, let's just empower governors to protect the border. And we see examples of what's going to happen if something like that were to go through. So Still waiting for them to get serious.
So aid, you believe this aid package is going to pass, all the foreign aid will pass. Question is what happens in the House, but that's not your jam.
And it'll be tough because you see the state of affairs in the House of Representatives.
Chaotic.
For
Republicans.
But unlike the border deal, I have not heard Speaker Johnson, this is dead on arrival. Now, it's going to be hard, very narrow majority. I mean, Nancy Pelosi showed how to lead a caucus with a very slim majority.
Yes, it's not like it can't be done.
Right, so it can be done.
Right.
So whether it's regular order, through suspension, et cetera, the encouraging piece is there has not been an announcement that it's dead on arrival.
That's an important point.
Well, to the point about leadership and the distinction between the Senate and the House, there's been some recent reporting on Mitch McConnell's waning influence over his own caucus. And I wonder, someone who obviously is not a member of that caucus, but has a front seat to the way that they operate, if you sense that that is the case, if he does not have the type of power and ability to whip votes that he once had.
Every issue is maybe a little bit different. Would they be
fair.
this amped up and divided on a different topic? Ukraine, I think, is at the core of the dysfunction of Senate Republicans right now. Here's my assessment. I mean, remember Trump's first impeachment? What was it for? Who did he call to say, I need you to investigate something?
President Zelensky.
Exactly, Ukraine, right? Putin's clearly got something over Trump, and Trump has a hold on the Republican Party. And so when Trump says jump, they say how high. When Trump says stand down, they say yes, sir. Right? When Trump says let's wait till November, that's what they're going to try to do. So it's the Trump effect that McConnell is up against.
But in doing that, they are conceding the global fight for democracy over autocracy. I think sometimes we talk about Ukraine and it makes it seem as though this only matters to Ukraine, when what we are talking about is a much bigger struggle here. And the fact that Republicans would absolutely concede that substantively is incredibly alarming for us as Americans.
Yeah.
It's also
We're talking about avoiding a potential world war.
Right.
Like Vladimir Putin is not going to stop at Ukraine.
Right. And when you look at the migrant situation, there used to be a Republican Party sympathetic to people fleeing repressive regimes, whether it was Russia, Cuba, Venezuela, other countries. That's not the case today.
You raise an interesting point about how this plays out with the leadership, within the leadership of the Republican caucus and McConnell's influence there. The jockeying that's already begun, which I'm sure you're aware of who's going to replace McConnell. Do you sense that there are Republicans in the Senate that Democrats can go to, not just on the issue of foreign aid, but on other things like the border, to sort of say, look, let's massage this a little bit differently and come to a different spot, because we do need, whether it's together or separate, we do need to address both of these issues, and we do have a way forward because we had it. What's the prospects, or is this just going to be political theater for the rest of this cycle till we get to November, and then probably looking at a different lineup anyway?
Look, I got to keep hope alive. This is a tough business for me, and if you don't keep hope alive,
Senator's like, I got to keep it alive.
And I made immigration reform, modernization, whatever term you want to use, a priority of mine since I got to the Senate more than 3 years ago, because I know how outdated our immigration system is. And so I've been doing that outreach with some Republicans, maybe a little easier than others, and maybe some will support this, but not that. And so we're trying to find that sweet spot. One of the frustrating things for me is how many Republicans have told me, hey, behind closed doors, I'm with you on Dreamers. We got to do that. But first, we've got to secure the border, or let's help farm workers, other essential workers during the pandemic. But first, Biden has to get control of the border, which is part of what enraged me this last week. So they negotiated a deal that they thought, I did, but they thought would secure the border. So why not add relief for Dreamers and others to this package? But they always walk away from it. We saw it in 2013. They negotiated a deal. It was moving. Speaker Boehner never brought it up for a vote in the House. We saw it in 2018. There was a bipartisan deal on its way to a floor vote in the Senate until Trump tweets, and a bunch of them walk away, and we're seeing it again in 2024. Republicans have to decide when to get serious.
But they had the deal. That's the critical thing I think people need to understand. They had the deal.
And they voted against it.
They voted against the deal. They didn't take the win that Democrats, much to the chagrin of certainly the more progressive members of the Democratic caucus, didn't want that, didn't want those pieces. It was a conservative bill on the border. And yet and still Republicans decided, because Trump made a phone call to the speaker, we're killing it.
And let me take a minute to why I voted no on that bill. because in that bill was another way to get back to what we used to call Title 42, right? Just to shut down the border, which we know did not work. Numbers went up during the Trump administration and when Title 42 was in place. If you want to be smart about addressing the migration issue, you got to, first of all, look at root causes. Why are so many people so desperately trying to come here to begin with? Let's work with our partner countries throughout the hemisphere and either give people hope and opportunity back home or work with other partner countries throughout the hemisphere to everybody do their part to better manage this flow. The biggest pressure that feeds unlawful migration is it's so hard to come here legally, right? So they wanted to make the amnesty system tougher. You can do that all you want. You can build a wall as high as you want. You're not going to get people, reduce the numbers until you address those root causes and engage our partners. That was not reflected in the bill. That was not reflected in the bill.
There was nothing about that. And I mean, I worked on the root cause of migration when I worked for the vice president at the White House, and it's always a two-pronged approach. At the border, yes, there's infrastructure at the border, but what is happening in the countries? The person who has been very at the forefront of all of these conversations is Secretary Mayorkas, as you raised. The House looks like they're going to bring his impeachment vote back up again.
One more time.
They might have the votes this time, Alicia. I don't know. And if they do have the votes, they're going to send it to the Senate. I don't think Senate Democrats are poised to impeach Secretary Mayorkas, but
ain't going to happen. And every minute the Senate may commit to it. There may be a full-on trial. It may be something less than that.
You think so? There could be a trial still.
Well, we don't know. We got to get this foreign aid package done, and then we'll get to that piece if it comes out of the House.
Okay.
House tried and failed last week. Every minute, either we may end up spending on that. Any minute that the House is spending on is a complete waste of time.